Okay, so hands down, this was a reality television show episode of Project Runway. Hands down. Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video. This is my review for Project Runway. This is season 18, episode 4. Before I even get started, this is very reminiscent of a different type of review. This is, I don't know, this one episode was more about the reality show presence than it was the fashion. Trust me. This was a reality show episode for sure. Hands down. You'll see. Let's talk. Okay, so we start the show right off with Tyler. Tyler is feeling the pressure of the competition, okay? And Sergio is helping that right along. He's doing a lot of offering of I can't even say unwanted. It should have been unwanted. I feel as though you were being, feel as though you were being sucked in, Tyler. You're being sucked into someone who's playing the game. You had already figured out that Sergio is basically playing a game, playing a character. You've put this together in the first 3 weeks of competition, okay? It's unasked for advice. You will learn. When you're in a competition setting, if I ain't asked you for nothing, probably not going to be very, very open to what you're saying, especially if you've already shown me these little nasty personality characteristics. But again, I'm not young. Tyler is very young, okay? But at the same time, what I've learned, Tyler is a very seasoned shade queen. You understand me? He understands the art of shade in a way that he should have never gotten sucked into this. And this is all this is all about the LGBTQIA community. Tyler is a drag queen. Tyler, you know the art of shade. You know how it works. So for you to allow yourself to be sucked in, you are young. You are young because in your core, you knew better. Like that's what I told you. This is the shade version. This is the reality show version of Project Runway. We're going to still focus on some of the fashion, but this was just reality show is what this was. Okay, so let's go. So that was the first thing. So we start off, this is what we're doing. Carly is part of this challenge. This challenge is Carly and her stylist, Carla. Carla came in as a guest mentor for this challenge. And what they're asking for is the designers to create an outfit for a CFDA event being held in Paris. And it has to be upscaled. So the shopping is taking place at the Goodwill, not at Mood. They have a $150 budget. They took them to Goodwill and they just have to recreate. This is a skill. It's a skill. It's a skill set all in its own. It really is. Trying to really explain it. There are people who are amazing at restyling and upscaling, literally redoing something that already exists. I mean, amazing at it. Um, and then there are people who are more amazing at creating from scratch. To be quite honest, I can do both. I prefer to start from here. I prefer to start from here. I could definitely do it. I could definitely take something because I don't generally shop off the rack, especially for drag. Um, my drag persona, I don't wear off the rack. I don't. Even if I buy something off the rack, I always change it. But that's even mostly in my regular life as well. If I'm actually going to do something, I have a real bad thing about seeing myself. So even when I buy, I'm generally buying and I might add to or change a little something. But that they didn't want just little ads and change. It's more like what I would do for drag. If I buy it off the rack, I'm completely switching it into something else. I'm adding something, taking something away, like majorly, not, adding new buttons or, I mean, completely restyling. So, yeah, but that's what drag calls for. Drag is, if something is a 5, it needs to be a 10 to a 15. Drag is over exaggerated. So that's basically what they really wanted. So I can do both, but I prefer to start from ground zero. I prefer to start from a sketch and work my way from there. So there is a skill set. There are some people who are literally just amazing at doing this. So this is what the challenge is. Goodwills. Shopping in Goodwills, you find nice stuff in Goodwills. You know what I mean? Well, and I still shop in Goodwills. Um, but when I shop at a Goodwill, I go to a Goodwill automatic. I'm looking for leather, suede, fur. That's what I shop in Goodwills for. I'll go in Goodwill for very expensive fabrics, very odd fabrics is what I'm looking for. Something that I'm actually getting a value on, something special, but I'm not going into the Goodwill just buy a blazer and that's not my thing. If I'm in there, generally I'm looking for leather, suede, or fur. That's it. That's my existence in the Goodwill. Okay. Or in a vintage store, any of that. I'm looking for leather, suede, or fur. That's me. Okay, so they go in. First thing, Nancy knows. Nancy's 64 years old. So Nancy's been around a while. Nancy knows the importance of dealing with a stylist. Okay. And especially the fact that you were put together with Carly's stylist, and Carly is who you're designing for. So if you can get the approval of the stylist, you're right on the right on the path that you need to be on. She just took it too far. She overdid it while they were at the Goodwill. She was like, Carla had the patience of Job, but she just was asking her question after question. I'm like, do you want her to sew the outfit for you too, Nancy? It was kind of one of those things. But then in the interim, it made for funny TV because you were looking like a nag on television. Of course, they played it up. But once they got into the workroom, Nancy had no issues with what she was doing. Nancy had a clear view of what it was she was doing, and she ended up in the top. So, was it worth the bad television time? I'd say yes. But yeah, she was getting on Carla's nerves, but Carla was cool, cool as a cucumber, but she was just, I was like, girl, come on, seriously? Anyway, moving on. Sergio continued on. Sergio in this thing with Tyler, totally trying to get into Tyler's head. You could see it. You could see it playing out. At a point, Dalvin even caught hold to what was actually going on. And Dalvin actually had a confessional moment talking about what was going on because it was so obvious. And it was like, okay, so it's starting to get on my nerves. You know, he started questioning Tyler's skill set because Tyler is self-taught. And then he started comparing it to his extensive training, trying to break Tyler down, trying to get into his head. And I was like, Tyler, I know you are not falling for this. Then I started seeing Tyler like having him to try to help him. I was like, so you want to go home? Is that it? You have to want to go home to allow this to go on. And I'm like, how many reality competitions have you ever paid attention to or watched, Tyler? This is competition, reality competition 101. You posted with him. Totally. Cuss him out if you have to. Because he is definitely not coming from a good place at all. And you knew it. That's the part that was killing me. You knew it. Like, you spoke on it. I'm sitting here watching the show, and I clocked him in episode 1. By episode 2, 3, you spoke it into words out loud. And I was like, I knew I liked Tyler. But anyway, all right, so this was going on. All right, so then let me tell you this. Right away, I started picking up on pet peeves of mine and things that were racking my nerves, like so bad watching this episode. I kept seeing a lot of ripping and tearing. Ripping and tearing, ripping and tearing. No. No, 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 no. If you're repurposing a garment, if you are upscaling, restyling, whatever word you're using for redoing a garment, that ripping and tearing, I understand you're under time constraints. I understand that. A seam ripper and a pair of scissors. That's what you need. That's what those are created for. They're created for deconstructing. Ripping and tearing is for construction workers. That is not for people who do apparel technology. We don't rip and tear through stuff. We rip and tear muslin, and that's it. We don't rip and tear real fabric, period, as a rule. And I kept seeing this ripping and tearing, and I was like, oh my God. It was just going through me. It literally was going through me. It was like somebody had nails on a chalkboard. It was driving me crazy. And sure enough, Shavi, my Shavi, it bit him in behind. Later on, we're going to talk. Anyway, so I was all in this. I was like, this is crazy. So, okay, so I saw that, and I was like, whoa. Christian came into the workroom, and it was Tyler. I said, Tyler, what is going on? Tyler's battling with Christian. Why are you battling with Christian? What's going on? What is going on? You know that we've seen the fool Sergio battling with Christian all this time. Now you're battling with Christian. You're battling with Christian, yet you're listening to Sergio. Do you want to go home? Like, I mean, that's all I kept asking. I'm like hollering at the television the whole time I'm watching this, the whole hour and a half that I was watching the program. I kept saying, do you want to go home? Are you just ready to go home? What are you doing? Christian said, well, you don't, I feel like you aren't listening to me, because he wasn't. He's not listening. Christian was saying, this, what you're doing is coming out, it's coming across as like a sailor costume. That's one of your critiques. I know you got to be listening to their critiques. The judges said things that you're doing are too costumey. And this, for me, is coming across like a sailor costume. And you're just back and forth, back and forth. No, I stand by this, that, and the other. To the point Christian's like, okay, all right, ball. How long you been watching this? Baby, when Tim Gunn was doing it, and people didn't listen to Tim Gunn, they went straight down the hatchet for the Patchy. When you don't listen to Christian Siriano, straight down the hatchet for the Patchy. They have the job for a reason. They didn't just by chance fall into the job. They have that specific job for a reason. Even if you don't agree, and I'm not saying you got to kiss their behind, but even if you don't agree, you probably want to pay attention because, again, sometimes you got to get out of your own way. You know, we're creative. And so we really are stuck on what our thing is. But sometimes you got to step back and look at it from further back. Walk across the room and look at it, and then see if you feel the same way. I'm just saying. Anyway, so then Christian is talking to Brittany, and that's when I first looked and I saw what Brittany was doing, and I was very satisfied with what Brittany was doing, and I was like, okay, we got the old Brittany back. Brittany is back. She got her zhuzh back, and I was looking at she's creating this blouse, and I got excited right from the door when she was literally using a skirt to create the sleeves for her blouse. And I was like, Miss Brittany, that's what I'm talking about. Thinking outside the box, doing something. The fact that you're using a skirt to create sleeves. It's either going to be a big fail or it's going to be a big win. So I was here for it. I was like, okay, then I'm looking at the fabric and it was like a plissé situation going on, and I was like, oh, Miss Brittany. So I was like, all right. So I was like really there for it, and so was Christian. Christian was real satisfied with the direction that she was going in. Shavi is over there talking to herself, and I'm laughing because I do that. I do it. He's having a whole conversation with himself, and I was like, I understand. I definitely understand it. Yeah, I understand it. And he was playing around with pinstripes. And I was liking the direction that it was going at first. Then something happened. But I liked the direction it was going. Because again, in the room was very dull. There was a lot of grays and black. And I was like, ugh, everybody ran down there and grabbed these because that's what there's always an overabundance of men's blazers at Goodwill for whatever reason. There's always an overabundance of gray and brown and black men's blazers at a Goodwill. Just always are. So I was like, I don't know why anybody went in there and pulled that mess out of there. And I'm going to say the one person that actually did grab up some blazers and did something very fashion forward with them, but still in her aesthetic was Victoria. I was like, okay, I was impressed with what Victoria was doing with her blazers. She used like 2 different blazers or 3 different blazers, and she was manipulating them. And I was like, okay, come on through. Okay, so all the models look like Carly. All of them look just like Carly. I said, check them out. So that was funny to see. Like I said, we're going to go ahead right on to our runway show. Victoria's outfit, I absolutely loved. It was that same silhouette, though. And I said, for whatever reason, it worked. Because what she did very much put me in mind of Paris, walking down the streets of Paris. It was very fashion forward. It was very... that's enough word. That word just engrossed it. It was fashion forward. And we're talking, Carly Kloss, she actually is a model. So she is long, tall, and slender. So it was, she's a classic model. She's not one of our heavier models, or she is that classic tall, thin, and slender. This thing that Victoria was doing worked. It was the one side missing and the asymmetrical hemline, same silhouette that she's been doing. She's done it in all the challenges, but it was totally on trend for this. So I was really, really here for what she did. And it was between her and, yeah, her and Brittany was my favorite. Was my favorite. The blouse that Brittany did, the skirt it's a skirt, whatever. The blouse was absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous to me. It really was. It's a beautiful, beautiful blouse. I love the whole sleeve situation. It was beautiful. So those were my two favorite things. Chelsea used 12 pairs of jeans and made this midriff and a pair of high-waisted palazzo pants out of these jeans. It was cool. It definitely was cool. It was cool. It was young, you know. Um, it was fresh. It was fresh. The way she cut the blouse, the back was out. It had a décolleté and it had like a little piece. Just the way she used the pieces and the waistbands and stuff. And yeah, it was pretty groovy. It was pretty groovy. Um, Tyler, Tyler had problems. He was supposed to make palazzo pants. He's sitting around there listening to Sergio. He ends up running out of time. Ended up switching up. Ended up making a pencil skirt, and then this outfit. It just was a blouse and a skirt, and the blouse was just like a halter with a little ruffle. I was like, girl, that ain't nothing but a two-piece ensemble, honey. You can find that in any Marshalls or TJ Maxx around it. It just, I was like, you literally, mm-mm. You messed around with Sergio and you got sabotaged, but you did a lot of self-sabotaging as well. And when I thought it couldn't get any worse, it actually did. Shavi screwed himself. It was just a 1 day challenge. So at the end of the day, he was working on the skirt and he was doing something and he was doing that pulling and tugging I'm talking about. And he pulled and got a hole in his skirt, which he ended up having to go back and remove some stuff and put some and making the skirt smaller, and it ended up to where the skirt ended up being too tight. So it was just a disaster on the runway. It was a cute little two-piece, but the whole thing just kind of went downhill. It started off good and it ended up just looking normal, and then it wasn't functional. Because the model was like tipping. It just wasn't functional. And then it was lackluster. It was just a cute two-piece. When she stands still, absolute cute two-piece with pinstripes. But it wasn't anything we've never seen before. And he just lost his zeal on the whole thing when the skirt situation happened. If it had been a 2 day challenge, it would have been something different, but it wasn't. It was a 1 day challenge. And that all literally went back to this pulling and tugging and carrying on. And he knows better. He knows better. He has experience in repurposing and redoing garments. He talked about it. That's how he learned how to sew. His grandma used to take him to Goodwill and they would take garments and take them apart to learn how to put them back together. That's how he learned how to sew. You knew better. Russian. Remember, fashion designers, seamstresses, people who do apparel technology, we don't tear fabric. We don't rip fabric other than muslin. Construction workers tear and rip and shred through stuff. We don't do that. Everything we do is with a purpose. We don't do that. And you knew better. And you screwed yourself. So that was it. He lost all his zeal and he pretty much screwed himself. And he fell into the bottom. He ended up in the bottom. Tyler. Okay, so we get on the runway. Tyler has to defend his garment. And then it just went into something totally different. We started to see another part of Tyler that is not very nice. Okay, like I said, Tyler's part of the LGBTQ community. Tyler knows the art of shade. Okay, and there's good things to the art of shade, and it can be funny, but then it could also be you could either be and he's a drag queen as well. And there's two different types of drag queens. There are very nice, personable drag queens who are fun and they're funny and people love being around them and they're very approachable and the crowds love them. And then there are bitchy drag queens who are nasty and they read and they look down their nose at people and they really have that diva, the bad diva thing going on. And there's people who love them, just like in the regular sector, where there are stars that are very approachable that people love, and there are stars that are bitchy that you can't approach, and they have bad reputations for not wanting to take pictures, not wanting to sign autographs and stuff like that. So even in the drag world, it's the same thing. Well, what we kind of come to find out, I think little Tyler is one of those bitchier drag queens, and it came across on stage. Bad timing. Very bad timing. And for the record, I don't like bitchy drag queens at all. At all. I am very approachable, always have been. Always have prided myself into it. That I will stop. I will talk with you. I will, make time for you even when there's not time. I'll make time. That is something I pride myself on. Tyler put himself into. He went from being like my favorite to really falling off with me. I was like, wow. He was definitely in my tops of people. I love Brittany and I love Nancy and I love Tyler and I love the Marquise and Shavi. And Tyler has completely fallen off of the list at this point. But anyway, Tyler's up there. He has to defend his outfit. And they were saying, well, no, I don't see it. I literally don't see it. And then we had Laverne Cox was there as a guest judge. So, yeah. Anyway, nobody was seeing it for the outfit, okay? And Carly said, no, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see me wearing this to anything, I just couldn't see me wearing it. It just doesn't hit the mark. He looked her dead in her face and said, not even to dinner with the Kushners. And there was a silence that was deafening that went through that studio. Like, are you kidding me? You could hear a pen drop back in the workroom. I was like, he didn't just do this. He did not just do this. And for all of you all who don't know who the Kushners are Carly's in-laws. There's a sordid past there. It's not really good with her in-laws. She's not Jewish. And her husband married her and brought her into this Jewish family, and she wasn't received very well. They just have had problems with accepting her all along. Even the fact that she's a model, there were things being said behind her back, and it has been a whole nasty, sordid past with her and her in-laws. And there was even a period, allegedly, that she was not even welcome at family functions, like holiday dinners and different things like that. So very sort of, dinner with the Kushners was, when I say just a nasty stinky, bitchy comeback is what that was. Very much so. And at that point, I'd have to say Tyler had to have known that he was going home. And I stopped even asking at that point, do you want to go home? You obviously want to go home. And not only do you want to go home, you want to go home and never be heard of again, basically. So that went down. Then they talked about Nancy's look, and Nancy cried because she was just so excited, and they loved it. So there actually ended up being, like I said, Shavi's situation was a nightmare. They were torn between Victoria and Nancy for the winner. They went with Victoria. I was right again. We got Shavi, Marquise, and Tyler were in the bottom. Of course, Tyler went home. Now, I'm going to give it to Carly. Carly was so professional throughout this whole thing. Okay? So professional. She was so professional. She did not drop her professionalism. She looked at him. Now, she gave him some look, baby. Y'all see my thumbnail? She gave him a look, baby. But she just went on and she was like, fine. He had the nerve. This was the part that I definitely didn't like. Once you stand there and you be a bitch and a nasty queen, then you stand in it. You need to stand in it. Once you throw out your nastiest read, which at that point was your nastiest read, you need to stand there in it, sis. He didn't. He'd come out when they eliminated him. He had the nerve to say, I just wanted to say something. He apologized. Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. It doesn't even matter about the apology because the damage is done. You are one that we will probably not see much from. And you're young. You're young. So I don't know what's going to happen for you. But if it has anything to do with this group of people that you just came in contact with, probably not much. Probably not much. Burger flipping possibly, but I don't even know if they'll even let you flip them a burger at this point. That was really... I think you slit your own wrist with that. It was a mess. And then they even had the nerve to clown him in the production with him saying, well, Christian has that one save. Maybe Christian will use his save on me. That we haven't even mentioned Christian's one save since episode 1. We're in episode 4. They brought it up. I said, oh, maybe, but I doubt it. Because Christian knows the art of nasty reads. And I was like, no, that ain't ready to happen. Not if you'd have just shaded his co-star. I don't see it happening, dude. Sure enough, after that was stated, Christian came out and said, Tyler, I'm going to send you back to clean up your space. It's been good. I said, oh, see you, girl. I was like, nobody's saving you. I knew it wasn't going to happen. Good night. So that was it. Tyler's out. Victoria won. Victoria will have immunity for the next episode. Now, here's a little extra for you all because this is the end of this episode. I had to go and watch the after show. As there is an after show where Christian will actually talk to the person that's been eliminated. So I went to see what was really going to go on. Listen, I'm not even going to go all through all the details of the after show, but I can just say this. I started off this competition really liking Tyler. Really wishing the best for Tyler. The after show was like the powdered sugar on the donut. I'm over Tyler. Tyler was a whole hot mess in that after show. No remorse for what he had done. They didn't even mention it, really. But he came on and he just threw more shade and more shade, shaded the judges, shaded, oh no, I stand by what I did. And, he came back in the whole stand in my shit situation. And it wasn't even necessary. Then was the time to try to break back. I mean, you had already backpedaled, try to save your career, what little bit of it that you actually have. He put the rest of the nails in the coffin. I was like, I guess I was wrong, because I don't need to see him anymore. He literally wiped himself completely off my list. He was so nasty. He was so nasty in that after show. I was so disappointed. So disappointed, because I was really pulling for him. But he showed a piece of him that I would never deal with as a designer nor as a drag queen. I would not hire Tyler for either thing. I wouldn't deal with him at all. I would not collaborate with him on either one of those things. I was like, wow, you have got to be kidding me. Anyway, like I said, I told you all when I started that this was completely more of a reality show episode than a fashion episode. This was reeking drama-filled reality. I was like, oh my gosh, this was just a mess. Whew, Jesus. Anyway, I'll catch y'all for next week's episode. Later.